It starts with a subtle shift. Not a grand announcement, but a quiet recalibration of where power, money, and influence will flow in the years to come. And right in the middle of this geopolitical reshuffle, the Philippines is weighing a move that could redefine its place in the world economy, joining BRICS. The expansion of BRICS and why it matters now. BRICS began in 2009 as an alliance between Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, a coalition of emerging economies determined to have a stronger voice in global governance. Over time, it has evolved from a loose economic forum into a powerful platform for reshaping trade rules, financing development, and challenging the dominance of Western-led institutions like the Group of Seven. In recent years, its scope has widened dramatically. Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates have joined its ranks. Argentina briefly came on board before stepping away. And in January 2025, Indonesia became the first ASEAN nation to secure full membership. With these additions, BRICS nations now account for more than 40% of the world's population and a similar share of global economic output. According to International Monetary Fund data, Indonesia's calculated entry, Indonesia's decision to join BRICS in January, was as much about domestic ambitions as international strategy. President Prabowo Subianto has set an ambitious target: 8% GDP growth, a figure that, if achieved, would place Indonesia among the world's fastest-growing economies. To get there, Jakarta needs more than good intentions. It requires new markets, steady investment, and the kind of infrastructure spending that can transform productivity. BRICS membership provides access to a much broader set of partners, from Latin America to the Middle East and Africa. It opens doors to financing through the bloc's New Development Bank, which prioritizes infrastructure among member states. For Indonesia, this means potential funding for roads, ports, and rail projects at competitive rates, essential tools for sustaining rapid growth. Indonesia's trade with BRICS members already totaled about $150 billion in 2024. Key exports such as palm oil, coal, natural gas, and rubber find ready markets in countries like India and China. In return, Indonesia imports machinery, electronics, and chemicals, goods that are vital for industrial expansion. Foreign Minister Sugiono framed the move as an embodiment of Indonesia's independent and active foreign policy, a statement that carries weight in a region where balancing between the US and China has become an art form. ASEAN's growing BRICS interest. Indonesia is not alone in seeing value in the BRICS framework. Thailand and Malaysia, currently partner countries, have already applied for full membership. Their interest reflects a wider ASEAN trend, seeking a balanced foreign policy that maximizes national interest without being pulled too far into either Washington's or Beijing's orbit.
A booming tech and services sector and a young, ambitious workforce. So why is the Philippines gaining interest from the BRICS nations? And what makes it so crucial for BRICS' future vision? The Philippines has a unique and influential location within Southeast Asia, positioning it as a vital hub in the Pacific. Its central location and closeness to the South China Sea offers key advantages for BRICS countries aiming to grow their influence in the region.
According to regional analysts, this trend accelerated after Donald Trump's return to the US presidency. Many Southeast Asian policymakers remember the trade turbulence of his first term, when tariffs on Chinese goods triggered economic uncertainty across the region. The fear this time is that US-China ties could spiral further downward, creating collateral damage for economies that depend on both markets. For ASEAN states, joining BRICS is not about abandoning the US or the European Union, it's about creating additional options. That flexibility is particularly valuable in an environment where economic disruptions can be triggered by a single policy decision in Washington or Beijing. Marcos signals openness to BRICS during India visit. During a 5-day state visit to India that concluded on August 8th, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. publicly acknowledged that the Philippines is open to exploring BRICS membership. Speaking to India-based news outlet First Post, he said, "I'll certainly be open to it. I haven't given it a lot of thought. We'd have to certainly look into it, but it provides us more options." While making clear that Manila is not necessarily planning to join the bloc in the immediate future, Marcos noted that the idea could be studied further with his cabinet once domestic priorities are under control. The president emphasized that his administration's current focus remains firmly on internal economic concerns, from driving growth to generating jobs, but he characterized BRICS as a thought worth examining for the strategic options it could provide. His remarks came after meetings with Indian President Draupadi Murmu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, where the two countries discussed expanding both diplomatic and economic ties. Analysts say the timing of Marcos's comments is notable. His India trip took place against the backdrop of heightened interest in BRICS among developing nations, particularly within ASEAN. According to Josue Rafael J. Cortez, a diplomacy lecturer at De La Salle College of Santa Benilde, the Philippines' possible interest in BRICS aligns with its broader foreign policy trajectory. With Indonesia already a member and Vietnam, Thailand, and Malaysia engaged in varying capacities, Cortez sees BRICS as a platform for multipolar cooperation. He acknowledged that some Western partners might interpret such a move as a shift in policy, especially given BRICS' inclusion of U.S. rivals Russia, China, and Iran, but argued that, in light of recent political and economic developments, there is nothing erroneous with such a move, if ever. Timing complicated by South China Sea tensions. The push for BRICS consideration comes at a time when Manila's relationship with Beijing is strained. The Scarborough Shoal, claimed by the Philippines as part of its exclusive economic zone, has once again become a flashpoint. In July, Chinese vessels, including the massive CCG 5901 Coast Guard ship known as the Monster Ship, patrolled the area. The National Maritime Council of the Philippines lodged formal protests, but Beijing rejected the claims and continued its patrols. In April 2024, Marcos offered to remove a U.S. missile system deployed by Washington if China would end what he called aggressive and coercive behavior in the South China Sea. The offer was not taken up, but it underscored that Manila still sees value in leveraging relationships on both sides. Domestic divisions over BRICS. Supporters of BRICS membership argue that it could diversify the Philippines' economic partnerships and reduce vulnerability to shifts in U.S. policy. They point to examples like India and the UAE, both BRICS members with strong ties to the U.S., as proof that joining does not require breaking existing alliances. Critics counter that BRICS is too heavily influenced by China, making membership politically risky while territorial disputes remain unresolved. For them, the timing is wrong, even if the long-term strategic logic is sound. What is clear is that other BRICS members, particularly India, might welcome the Philippines' participation as a counterweight to Beijing's influence. India has been cautious about some BRICS proposals, notably the idea of a unified currency, and would likely support Manila's entry as a way to broaden the group's internal balance, the semiconductor threat. As Manila weighs these geopolitical choices, a pressing economic challenge is emerging: the possibility of U.S. tariffs on semiconductors. Earlier this month, President Donald Trump proposed a 100% tariff on semiconductor imports to the U.S., part of his push to reshore electronics manufacturing. While he suggested possible exemptions for companies relocating production to the U.S., the threat has sent shockwaves through the Philippines' export sector. Dan La Chica, president of the semiconductor and electronics industries in the Philippines, described the potential impact as devastating. The sector is the country's single largest export category, making up about 70% of total exports. Around 15% of these shipments go directly to the U.S., meaning a sudden tariff hit could be severe. Industry insiders are bracing for possible fallout, though some remain cautiously optimistic. A popular catchphrase, TACO, short for Trump always chickens out, has gained traction, reflecting the belief that Trump may ultimately reverse course or soften the measure. But few are willing to bet the country's economic stability on that assumption. Linking BRICS to economic resilience. For proponents of joining BRICS, the semiconductor tariff threat is a perfect example of why diversification matters. If U.S. trade policy becomes more protectionist, Manila could look to BRICS markets to absorb some of the output currently destined for America. The expanded BRICS bloc represents about 24% of global trade and 28% of global GDP. By 2022, it had become the main trade partner for nearly 28% of countries worldwide. Access to that network could help the Philippines reduce its dependence on any single export market, insulating it from the political swings of one administration or the trade disputes between others. What comes next? The decision on whether to apply for BRICS membership will not be made overnight. It will require weighing the immediate political risks against the long-term economic and strategic benefits. It will also depend on how the broader geopolitical environment evolves, particularly U.S.-China relations, South China Sea dynamics, and the outcome of Trump's tariff proposals. For now, the conversation is gaining momentum, fueled by both opportunity and uncertainty. If Manila does take the lead, it could mark one of the most significant shifts in Philippine foreign and economic policy in decades, one that would align the country with a bloc that is shaping the new rules of global trade and development. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Should Manila take its seat at the BRICS table? The answer could shape the country's fortunes for decades to come.